And thanks everyone for engaging in the breakouts. We are tallying up the numbers right now, but easily in the hundreds of breakouts all going on at the same time, and fantastic Q&A with each of the CEOs. Nate, Christine, you guys want to lead us through a discussion here before the special guests join us at the top of the hour?
Sure, thanks, Brandon. As many of you might have seen, pass through your network, there's a link that we had to flex over to for YouTube. We're in the process of getting that back up, but that new link over to YouTube, we've got a stack of folks that are already over there. Pass that to anyone who is still looking. Great conversations, a little bit of back and forth on the breakouts. I know there's some people, a couple of people had some problems. There are others who just gave rave reviews that we've heard already. The opportunity to really interact directly with these innovators. So in the short time that we have here, Christine, I'll hand it back over to you for a couple of quick questions that we have for the CEOs that we have on the panel here.
Yeah, great, thank you. So, I think one, question we really have for the full team, for some, maybe we think about just a speed kind of question would be, what in your opinion is your key government use case? Maybe we'll just kind of go around the table here in the order of the breakout rooms, and we'll start with Paul.
Sure. Look, I think the key government use case is frankly really similar to what the civilian use case is. This is a vehicle that has been kind of optimized for moving people and potentially things anywhere between 2 and 150 miles. So that's a mission that is important on the civilian side, and certainly important on the government side as well. And we feel really good about the fact that those are so similar.
Great, thank you. Kyle, how about you?
The mission for our aircraft is really in cargo and logistics, which is a great compliment, as I think the Air Force knows they move people, cargo, medicine, supplies, resupplies. We have focused on having a very large cavern in the aircraft and having the flexibility of moving large, heavy payloads.
Okay, thank you. Ed?
Oh, sorry about that. Unable to start video. Sorry about that. Anyway, I think it's on your side actually, but we are too. That's our focus on cargo, but our focus was really it was much more market oriented. It's by talking to the large package overnight package delivery companies and people like that. Was how can we get their what can we provide for them? What is the plug and play solution? And that's exactly what we've come up with, is something that allowed them to move lots of cargo. So we have 1,000 nautical mile capability without having to refuel, or for that matter, having to unload cargo, which was very important. So it gives us, it really is, as we say, it's a plug and play solution that has multiple things. And even for them on the military side, the ability to do CASEVAC, which we hadn't really looked at before, but we do have that capability, especially now. The idea is to have a palletized version of CASEVAC answer that we're doing for our phase 3 for Agility Prime, is that demonstration to show that we can carry 6 casualties and 2 flight medics along with all their equipment as well, get to a location about 50 nautical miles away. We fly a little over 240 miles an hour, so we can get there very quickly, much faster than a helicopter. Really shorten that golden hour time from injury to hospital. We can shorten it down to 30 minutes, right in the 30-minute range, which really is beneficial.
It's exciting to hear about some of that streamlining. I'm not sure if we've got Dave connected back on, but Dave, what's the perspective from Elroy? We may have a little tech on him on joining. So, John, I'll switch that over to you. Same question. What are you thinking about some of the key government use cases? I'm gonna keep rolling here. Matt, we have you on from Lyft.
Yeah, thank you. Any application where you need to get a single person, obviously with our aircraft being single seat, onto scene. So first response, whether that's medical first response. We're developing a version that basically has an integrated stretcher, so you can get on scene really quickly. You can essentially load a patient if medevac is needed and fly that autonomously back to medical facilities. So really exciting use cases there. There's a little provision as an ultralight actually provided for in the FAA's rules that allows ultralights to be used by federal, state, and local governments, and without the limitations on ultralights. So flying in controlled airspace, flying over congested areas. We're really excited to explore that. So they're actually flown under Part 91 instead of Part 103 if you're a government agency. So lots of use cases beyond recreation and sport for us.
Super, and we've got Dave Merrill back in now. Dave, I know you've been putting a lot of thought into this with the initial discussions through the SBIR, but share with the rest of us a little bit thoughts on military use cases or public use cases outside of the military.
Sure. Sorry, I just rejoined. I wasn't in the meeting, so I think I missed the question. But is it basically about use cases for eVTOL or for our systems outside of the Air Force and the military?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, we've been noticing since we started the company that there are very strong commercial logistics use cases for our system. And in fact, we built the kind of early customer base that's ready to use our systems in the commercial logistics world, in the oil and gas logistics world. And I think when we've thought about product development, we think of this Venn diagram of what we've learned through a lot of customer discovery and customer development on the with big logistics customers, and what we've learned for the military. Both, not even beyond the Air Force, the Army and the Marines I mentioned earlier are also interested in autonomous aerial resupply. And so our goal is to create a core platform that forms the basis of a business that can serve both of these use cases. And it turns out that actually the needs of commercial logistics to be more nimble and enable time-definite deliveries in places where it's really challenging to do that today, either because of traffic or terrain or other challenges, have a lot of overlap to what we've learned about the need in the military to do better, more high-performing logistics.
And John, we'll finish off with you. I know you've put a lot of thought into this over the years, and so we'll ask you just a slightly different question, given that you spent a lot of time already working with DARPA and others. What are the biggest changes you see in the technologies and in this market space as compared to the time when you started Transformer that became Ares with DARPA?
Can you hear me, Nate? My video is not, I can't, how do we get my video?
That's all right. We've got you loud and clear. So
okay. So what are the challenges? Is that the question in terms of technology or in terms of business, or what specifically?
The biggest changes that you've seen in the VTOL market since you started the work with Ares and with Transformer a few years back?
It's been a transformational dynamic where, before Ares in the mid 2000s, there were very few participants except for the large OEMs in vertical lift. It was frankly, the OEMs were not bringing technology to the table, and I think that gap motivated the customers to start looking for capabilities on the military side, and then the emergence of autonomous systems in the commercial side began opening people's eyes to what was possible, and particularly advanced at a high rate outside of the DoD construct, and opened, I think, a lot of people's eyes within the military that autonomous systems have to be really looked at carefully and adopted. We still haven't adopted vertical lift UAVs to a high degree, so I think it's a growing opportunity. From a business perspective, the Defense Department has made a sea change in its openness to working with small, innovative companies. And I think Agility Prime is the manifestation of a trend that's been going on for about 5 years. On the commercial side of the market, there is a high degree of risk aversion in existing operators. I mean, they're very familiar with the helicopters they operate. Some will evolve and adopt new technologies. I think they're going to be at a competitive advantage over time. And some of them may want to evolve, but they don't necessarily have the resource base to be leaders in that area, and there'll be more followers and adopt technologies as they're proven within the military sector, and then transition into the commercial environment.
Well, listen, I want to thank all of you for the time that you spent with us today and the time over the week, in particular, the time that you and your teams are putting into developing these truly transformational capabilities. It'll be exciting to see the opportunities to start flying once we all emerge from this current COVID crisis. Thank you all for hanging with us through some of the tech difficulties. We continue to evolve and we'll continue to put out hopefully some great material for the rest of the day. Christine, thank you for joining us, and thank you for the leadership that you and Gamma provide to this community. Great to have you here this morning. And with that, we will close up our session here with the 6 SBIR companies that we have as part of Agility Prime. And it looks like we have some special guests with you, Brandon. Back over to you.
Yes, these are my daughters, Aubrey and Dahlia. And oh, it looks like, is that Bethany I see coming in? Oh, both your daughters. So in the spirit of the networking hour coming up of diversity and inclusion, I'm very happy to welcome Major General Jeannie Leavitt. You're an inspiration to all of us, especially our daughters here today. Well, thank you for joining us. Nate, if you'll do an official introduction, and then I'll invite her to join the networking hour right after this.
Certainly, General Leavitt, ma'am, thank you for joining us today. For everyone else, General Leavitt is the commander of Air Force Recruiting Service. Her team also manages all the strategic marketing for the U.S. Air Force. General Leavitt was the Air Force's first female fighter pilot and first female commander of a combat fighter wing. She joins us today for some quick questions and answers, and we'll be kicking off an exclusive networking session focused on diversity and inclusion. So, ma'am, thanks for joining us today. I'll give you a couple of intro comments, and would be very interested to hear, in particular, with all the aircraft you've flown and the leadership that you've demonstrated in flight, would be interested in your perspective on this new era of transportation that we're hearing introduced this week to the DoD, and that so many of our great innovators around America have been working on for years.
Hello, and thank you. Happy to be here today. It's exciting. This is leading edge technology, and being in recruiting, this is one of the strengths of the Air Force and the Space Force. You know, we have a brand new service, and we're recruiting for both the Air Force and the Space Force. And we're all about the leading edge of technology and innovation and thinking of new and creative ways to do things. And so it's very exciting to be here today and spend a little time with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Super, ma'am. Thank you very much for being here. What do you see from the perspective of bringing in new recruits who are able to quickly immerse themselves in this software-enabled Air Force that we've been striving so hard to get to? What are some of the ways, and do you see any potential with these new types of technologies to recruit maybe a little bit differently, as we're always trying to improve, obviously bringing in fantastic recruits daily? But what does that look like, in your opinion, as we move into the future?
Well, it's funny because we are living in unique circumstances and unique times right now. And so it has driven us to accelerate some changes we had already planned to make. We've shifted to something we call virtual recruiting due to the requirements for the physical distancing. And so we've accelerated a number of technologies to help us with recruiting. And that's in line with, you know, the new technology that you're pursuing right now. What we find is this new generation that we're recruiting, they're digital natives. They understand the technology. They grew up in it. They were immersed in it. You know, I'm more of a digital immigrant. I did not grow up with technology surrounding me. And so it's catch on so quickly, and they're so interested. And so when we have new technologies and exciting things that are going on, it really draws people to want to be part of this team, to be able to create new capabilities, and all the while defending our nation and what we hold dear, the defense of this nation.
Well, ma'am, thank you for your time today, and thank you in particular for offering some of the time for our breakout sessions for our diversity and inclusion. As you can see from the various folks here in the audience, we have over 400 Civil Air Patrol and ROTC cadets registered, hundreds of other students that are out there. I think, in fact, Brandon, some of the school kids there in his daughter's school are participating now. So thank you for continuing to develop and inspire this next generation of airmen. And Brandon, over to you to transition us into the networking sessions.
Yeah, my daughters were on Zoom calls downstairs when they heard about what we were planning, and they announced it to the school. And so I think we have hundreds of young kids watching this afternoon. And I would encourage those kids watching and all the other flying car enthusiasts, engineers, everyone that's out there watching. General Leavitt is going to lead a discussion for the first half hour in these breakout groups. Those links are appearing in Slack, YouTube chat, and on the website right now. So go to any of those places and you should be able to get the Zoom access. If you've registered, check your email. The link is also right there. So General Leavitt, thank you so much for teeing this up and joining us this afternoon. Please enjoy the networking session. I know there's a lot of great questions, and I think there's even time for breakouts after those sessions to continue the networking. And thank you, Aubrey and Dahlia. And Bethany, I don't know your other daughter's name, but thank you guys for joining. And General Leavitt, any closing comments to this wide audience here before we send you into the networking hour diversity and inclusion session?
I'm excited. This is a topic that's very important to me, and it's very important to the leadership of the Air Force. We want a diverse workforce. We want people who think differently, who bring different perspectives, who have different ideas. By doing that, we're going to get to better solutions. You know, it's a strategic imperative. It's a competitive advantage, quite honestly, over potential adversaries if we can outthink anyone that we are going to be facing in the future. And we do that with that diversity of thought, having people who bring different perspectives. And so diversity and inclusion are some topics that are very important to me. I'm excited to do the networking sessions. It should be a lot of fun. And this job of recruiting is amazing. You know, we're inspiring that next generation. We're showing them a path to be part of something bigger than themselves, to have a purpose and to be, quite honestly, in the Air Force and Space Force, be on the leading edge of technology. So it's exciting, it's fun, and I'm looking forward to the mentoring session. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Super. Thank you, ma'am. And for everyone else out there, enjoy the networking sessions, and we'll see you back here in 2 hours for a fantastic afternoon. We got Kyle Clark's little one. One of them is a pilot.